Hello, everyone. I'm James Milan. Welcome to this DPCD update. We are back. By back, I mean I'm back, and Claire Ricker is back. She is, of course, the director of the Department of Planning and Community Development here for the DPCD update regularly. Thanks for being here once again, Claire.
Of course, sure.
Yeah, and I have to warn you, well, I've already warned you, you already know, but we should warn our audience. This is going to be a jam-packed one. And if you tune into these regularly, you know that I must mean we've got 6, 7, 8 topics to talk about. That's what we're talking about today. So among those will be we want to talk about the recent grant for the new electric school bus. We want to get an update on Electrify Arlington. We want to talk about the 50th annual, well, celebrating 50 years of CDBG grants. And we want to talk about the Arlington Celebrating Black Patriots on upcoming Juneteenth weekend. There's water chestnut removal at the res, and the DPCD will have a porch at Porchfest. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. But let us start with housing. So I understand that Arlington recently received approval of its economic feasibility analysis from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. What does that all mean for residents?
Well, what it means, I think, on the most basic level is that the town can now require a higher level of affordability in our MBTA communities overlay districts. Having the economic feasibility analysis approved by the state means that we can apply our minimum requirement rather than the state's minimum requirement. The increase was part of the MBTA communities overlay district zoning that was approved by a special town meeting last fall. It means that developers are now required to build more affordable housing in the overlay district. So it's a great achievement. I think it's really going to help us in our achieve our goals in the MBTA communities overlay districts. And it's just a really great development that we were able to get this approval.
Well, we have lots and lots to talk about, so I don't want to spend I don't want to hold us up at all, but I will just say, obviously, I think people are aware MBTA communities was clearly something that took up a lot of time and energy within our own community of Arlington. We are moving forward in the way that you just described, or ways you just described. It's clearly out there in the newspapers and otherwise that other communities are continuing to struggle with earlier stages of this whole thing. So, good news that we are moving forward, even as we hear the news that others, others are having a tougher time.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. Again, I have mentioned a whole bunch of topics. I'm going to ask you just to move to the ADU, the accessory dwelling unit webinar that's coming up,
Sure, sure. So
or
in
that
in
happened.
yeah,
Sorry.
in 2021, the spring town meeting adopted the accessory dwelling unit or ADU policy in the zoning bylaw. And so ADUs are now allowed by right in all residential and business zoning districts. So last night we held an ADU webinar, What's an ADU and how do I build one? That covered, common topics and frequently asked questions for those interested in building an ADU. And it was hosted by the town and by Equitable Arlington. The presenters last night included Mike Ciampa from ISD, Pat Hanlon from the Zoning Board of Appeals, Erica Schwartz from the Housing Corporation of Arlington, Ed McDonald of McDonald Contracting, and then a local resident who had discussed his experience with adding an ADU. The recording of the webinar and additional information will be available in the next week at arlingtonma.gov/ADU.
Thanks very much. Excuse me. And talked to Town Manager Jim Feeney about this last week, but always good to hear when these things happen. Arlington was recently awarded an EPA clean school bus rebate. Just tell us about that from your perspective, Claire.
Sure, absolutely. I think this is just such great news. The town was awarded $200,000 through the EPA's 2023 Clean School Bus Rebate competition. The funds will be used to replace one of our diesel school buses with a battery electric school bus. The project supports the town's goals of reducing climate changing greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050. If all goes well, we'll see the new bus on the road next spring, which will bring our total number of electric buses in Arlington Public Schools to 3 once the new bus is on the road. And of course, as I say almost at every update, kudos to Talia Fox, our sustainability coordinator, for getting this grant, and helping to expand the fleet. She does such great work.
Yes, Talia is ever with us here for sure, at least by association. So let's hear about Electrify Arlington, another staple of our conversations a lot of the time, but I think that you have an update about that.
Sure, yes. So the town's Electrify Arlington campaign has seen continued success since it launched in late 2022. In 2023 alone, over 1,500 Arlington households had home energy assessments to learn how they could save money on energy while improving comfort in their homes. Also in 2023, we had a very impressive 406 households installing heat pumps, which heat and cool homes efficiently without burning fossil fuels. It's wonderful that so many have made efforts towards sustainable living. And of course, if you're interested in doing the same, check out the Electrify Arlington website or contact an Electrify Arlington coach. This is at arlingtonmass.gov electrify. And again, kudos to Talia and to Lori Kinshaft, our energy associate, for their work in helping Arlington reach its net zero goals.
Yeah, those are great numbers to hear and
Yeah.
to share. You and I were talking just before we went on air about the heat wave coming up next week. Those who have installed heat pumps in their houses I think are going to be very, very happy come the middle of next week that they've got some added protection against the elements there.
Yeah.
Okay, I had mentioned at the outset that the Community Development Block Grant Program is celebrating an anniversary. Tell us about that, please.
Sure, yeah. So the town's CDBG draft annual action plan for program year 50 is now available on the town's CDBG page for review and public comment through July 8th. CDBG funds have been allocated for affordable housing, parks, public facilities and infrastructure, public services, and planning and administration, principally for people with low and moderate income. The town was awarded just over $1 million in new grant funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And DPCD will hold a virtual public hearing to review the draft annual action plan on Thursday, June 27th at 6 p.m. And of course, this information is also available on the CDBG website.
Great. We are just a week away from Juneteenth and the weekend's worth of celebrations, including a celebration you want to tell us about.
Yeah, absolutely. Arlington's DEI division, Arlington 250 and Arts Arlington are sponsoring a celebration of Black Patriots to commemorate Juneteenth and Prince Hall Day. The town has a storied history of Black patriotism rooted in the Revolutionary War, certainly, and beyond that. The public is invited to the celebration and observance on June 23rd from 2 to 5 p.m. at the Whittemore Robbins House. There will be a poetry reading, food trucks, and a DJ, and more. It's free, it's open to all ages, and then for more information on that event, just take a look at the town's community calendar.
Thank you. Just a couple more things to talk about today. One of them has to do with the removal of those pesky water chestnuts at the Arlington Reservoir.
Yeah. Yeah. So water chestnuts are just an invasive plant that takes over the reservoir, and it degrades the local ecology and inhibits, clearly recreation opportunities at the res. As the town traditionally has done to reduce the impacts of the invasive, we've employed New England Aquatics to remove them, and they will be doing that work starting June 17th. It will continue on weekdays through the 28th. But residents are invited to join volunteer events to remove the water chestnuts from the res by hand. The dates are to be set up by the Mystic River Watershed Association. Check their website for opportunities to volunteer. Residents will be provided kayaks and life jackets for the cleanup. And to get more information for that opportunity, people should take a look at mysticriver.org/volunteer.
You know, I have occasionally done this kind of thing over the years that I've been living here, and I'm always struck by how many people regularly show up to do this kind of
Hmm.
voluntary community activity. And I hope the same continues this year, of course, but I do also just want to say kudos, not just to Talia Fox, no, but also to those folks who do continue to do this each and every year. And I hope the weather is good for you this coming weekend and thereafter. So last thing, we have mentioned a number of things that we do talk about regularly here. Here's one that I have to say, I don't think I've ever spoken to a DPCD director about, and that is Porchfest. So there will be a DPCD presence at Porchfest. Please tell us about that.
Yeah, that's right. So DPCD, led by our Economic Development Coordinator, Katie Luzai, we are sponsoring a Porchfest event this Saturday on the 15th. So stop by our porch, which is the front steps of Town Hall, from 12 to 3 on Saturday during Arlington's Porchfest. There will be music by Patsy, Nick LaFauci, and Arlington's own Ghosts and Shadows band. We're crossing our fingers that we won't be rained out on Saturday. If so, the rain date for Arlington Porchfest is June 16th. However, DPCD's porch will be closed should it rain. But to learn more, visit arlingtonporchfest.org.
Great. So yeah, we got one shot on Saturday for the DPCD porch, and I don't know. I feel good about the chances. So I hope that you enjoy yourselves that day. I'm sure the rest of us will as well, and we'll make sure that that's one of the stops on our tour.
Good.
All right. Are we done, Claire? Really?
I think so.
You sure you don't want to keep talking? I bet maybe not.
No.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I've been speaking with Claire Richter. She is the director of our Department of Planning and Community Development for this DPCD update. Claire carves out the time every couple of weeks to talk with us, and we appreciate it. And also, we appreciate your attendance here. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.